Good afternoon, MoveOn members and friends, and welcome to the MoveOn for Kamala organizing call. My name is Chris Percy, Senior Director of Member Productions at MoveOn, and your host for our time together this evening. So look, it has been a week. With all that is happening, with all of the transitions, we at MoveOn wanted to convene this space to ground us in this moment, right? There is so much energy and so much excitement for Kamala Harris. And I will admit, I am truly in awe of how people from around the country have flocked around her, including many of you who are on this call tonight. This past week alone, we've had members join our virtual phone banks in record numbers to talk to voters about Kamala Harris and her historic run for president. Also, members around the country have been canvassing their neighbors and friends to talk about what's at stake in this election and making sure that they get out and vote. But you will hear more about that later, don't worry. Now, I've been hosting these live streams for years now, and I feel like every single election I say this is the most important election of our lifetime. And I have to say that I mean it when I say it again. This is the most important election of our lifetime. We really are voting to save democracy. So why are we here tonight? We are here to make sure that you, our membership and friends, understand that with this excitement does come work. I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you're rah turned up, but we still have work to do. Together, we have all the tools we need to create a more just and equitable country. And we know that when we come together and do the work, that we can win. We've seen it happen. We've seen odds against us, and we have still beat them. So tonight, you will hear from my colleague, Darrell Douglas, our field organizing manager, who will talk to us about our program and how you can, this very week, work to win this election. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a sneak peek. Just go to moveon.org/volunteer now to sign up and find out how you can plug in today. This Tuesday through Thursday, we will be phone banking virtually. So you can do it from the very comfort of your home. You could be in your slippers and your nightgown and still work to make this a better place. Next week, we will be writing postcards to voters across the country, reminding them about the importance of making their voice heard. So sign up now. Again, that's moveon.org/volunteer now. Also tonight, we will hear from one of our MoveOn members, Mitch, who's been volunteering with us this cycle and who will share with you their experience and how you can also get involved and some tips for you when you do get involved. But first, I feel my churchy side coming. But first, we have someone with us tonight whose tenure in the House of Representatives has itself been a historic one. She is known for many things. She is the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House, not once, but twice. Okay. She is one of the reasons why millions of Americans were able to have health care with her work on the Affordable Care Act. She was the reason millions of Americans were able to get some help in the wake of COVID-19. She has held the line against Trump so many times, it's hard to detail them all. Honestly, she really is the epitome of what it means to represent not just her beloved 11th district, but for 37 years, she has proven to be a values-driven, ethical, and tenacious force for good in this country. Now, when I was a little younger, and I tried to flex on people, I would say, Google me. Now, the difference is, if they Google me, they would find nothing. Okay. But if you Google this person, you'll find account after account of how she stood up for everyday people. I am personally honored to present to you this evening to share some words about the moment that we're in. Friend of MoveOn and Speaker Emerita of these United States of America, Nancy Pelosi. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Speaker.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your very kind words, for the invitation to be with you and to join so many friends of the future as we go forward. For 2/3 of the time that I have been in Congress, I have worked with MoveOn. So I appreciate your work, your leadership, and really to the point of internally we can get things done with our inside maneuvering, but not unless we have the outside mobilization to make it happen. And MoveOn has been so essential to the outside mobilization, whether we're passing healthcare, saving healthcare, whatever it is. You talked about earlier in your remarks about what's at stake in the election, and we'll get to it. But I just want to say that this has been quite a week, and I'll go into it. But first, what is at stake? President Joe Biden has been a magnificent president of the United States. Mount Rushmore quality, accomplishing so many things. I could go into all of it, but let's just say in the course of the evening, this show we will. But right now, shortly he'll be on his way to Texas to speak at the LBJ Library about the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. That is under threat from these Republicans with their Project 2025. He'll be joined with some of our leadership from the African American community, and he will speak about what we have to do to save it and to demonstrate the threat of 2025, but also what they've already done in the Supreme Court of the United States with the Voting Rights Act, which is related to civil rights, as you know. So this is not a time for us to worry about what the Republicans are saying. We don't agonize, we organize, and that's what we want to do. The outside mobilization makes own the ground. We must own the ground with our mobilization. We must inspire with our message of inclusiveness and about the future, about freedom, and we must have the resources, the money to get that done. As you have seen on all three scales, Kamala Harris has just been remarkable in this past week. Now, I'm excited about her candidacy. I'm excited personally because I know her personally as a person of faith, a person committed to public service for the right reasons, for justice. Know her officially. She has been part of the Biden agenda as well as working with the Democrats in Congress to get the job done, whether it's a rescue package, infrastructure package, whether it's chips and science, whether it's the IRA, when we talk about saving the planet and reducing the cost of prescription drugs, what's about our veterans and the PACT Act and the rest. The list goes on of the things that they accomplished, we accomplished working together, but would not have happened without, again, the outside mobilization. So I accept your compliment. And then, as I said, personally, officially, politically, she is one astute person. She has become the Attorney General, the United States Senator, Vice President, and now our candidate for president. Make no mistake, what she has done in this week to unite and organize the Democratic Party, to attract volunteers for the mobilization, to attract small donor contributions, like $200 million or something like that, for to fund the operation. And again, a message of freedom, a message of freedom. And I say to the young people on the call, what does freedom mean to you? Does it mean your personal freedom, the LGBTQ? Does it mean women's right to choose? Is it freedom to make your own decisions based on opportunity that you have through education? Is it freedom to breathe clean air, drink clean water? Is it freedom to be safe in your neighborhood? Well, it's not up to me to say, it's up to you to say. But Kamala Harris is about freedom. That's why I'm so pleased to be with all of you and to sign in your presence my nominating petition for President of the United States of Kamala Harris. And I, and the undersigned, pledge my support for the candidate named below for the nomination by the 224 Democratic National Convention as the Democratic candidate for President of the United States. I sign it in your presence, but you can sign it too if you're a delegate. You can sign this as well and be part of this historic occasion when we will be saving the aspirations of our founders, the freedoms that our men and women in uniform fought for, the aspirations of our children as we go into the future. I'm so proud that Kamala Harris is our nominee for president, and so pleased to salute her and Joe Biden for the work they have done. An historic term of office in this period of time. And yet, there's much more to be done. Elections are about the future. So about the future, sign up for Kamala Harris. We don't agonize, we organize, and when necessary, we unionize. Let's get the job done. Thank you, Chris, for your leadership. I accept everything you said about me because of my members and their courage. Their courage, your mobilization, onward to victory. Let's put one good day in front of another. One good week, one good month. There we are.
Yes,
onward to victory. Just win, baby. That's my saying.
Yes, just win, baby. Thank you so much. First of all, I'll try not to lose it. Thank you so much, Speaker Pelosi, for being with us tonight and signing that tonight. We are so honored to have you. And again, if you don't hear it again, we thank you for your tireless work, all that you have done. 100 years from now, folks will also study how you stood up for our democracy. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. We honor you and we thank you. That's to you and all of you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
We have earned the support of enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination. And I am so very honored, and I pledge to you, I will spend the coming weeks continuing to unite our party so that we are ready to win in November. This campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. This campaign is about who we fight for. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and make working families foot the bill. They intend to end the Affordable Care Act and take us back then to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. America has tried these failed economic policies before, but we are not going back. And we have an election to win. So, Wisconsin, today I ask you, are you ready to get to work? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win.
Thank you all so much, MoveOn members, for being here on a Sunday. My name is Darrell Douglas. I'm here in Houston, Texas. I see a couple of familiar faces in the chat. I see Sanakia McQueen. I see Rebecca Lash, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit. There's so much energy right now, and you could have been anywhere on a Sunday evening, but you are doing your Democratic duty to join us for this rally. And we heard the amazing words from Speaker Emerita Pelosi. I'm super pumped up. I'll admit, I knew she was going to be on the call, but I'm still fanning out over here. I hope you are too. Let me tell you something. Since last week, when all of this changed and there was this huge transition, more than 1,000 of you, MoveOn members like yourself, MoveOn vote mobilizers, as we call them, have signed up for a shift. Since Thursday, we've made over 50,000 calls, and there's so much more work to do. As Chris mentioned earlier, there are going to be phone banks coming up this week. There are going to be postcard parties, and there's an opportunity for you to hop in on the magic. I mentioned Rebecca Lash a little earlier. I met Rebecca on one of the phone banks. I want to say it was yesterday, and Rebecca volunteered in a political movement for the very first time as a MoveOn vote mobilizer. She lives in New York. She graduated high school, but is going to college in Syracuse. And she is sort of an indication of this energy that we feel all over that is going to push us towards a win in November. During the debrief on yesterday's phone banking call, Rebecca mentioned that she had a really long phone call with someone. She spoke to someone who had never voted, who was 39 years old, but who was going to vote for Kamala Harris for the first time. That was going to be her first time voting. These are the stories that are going to push us forward. I want you to put in the chat, no matter where you are, I want you to put Kamala if you're going to join if you're going to join MoveOn's election program. Let me see Kamala in the chat. And I'm going to point you to moveon.org/volunteer. Again, that is moveon.org/volunteer. I see Donna Yanner. I see Guadalupe Lynn saying, yes, we can. I see GB Twin Cities. That is Gail from Minnesota. We will not go back. Brenda Smart says, really excited. So much support, so much action. You want to get on the action. Again, that is moveon.org/volunteer now. So you want to volunteer now. As a matter of fact, put volunteer now in the chat. I'm looking at myself. I'm looking at you in the chat. I see Cake Doodle. I see A. Lindsay. Everybody. Okay, so I better see all of y'all's names signed up to volunteer with us. It's going to take all of us to make this happen. It's going to take all of us to do the little things that we know what it looks like to win because we've done it before, right? Take advantage of this action, take advantage of this opportunity, and let's phone bank, let's postcard, and let's win this thing in November. And with that, I will pass it back to Chris. Passing it to Mitch.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mitchell Hira, and I'm a member of MoveOn. So I'm a communications professional, and what I do is essentially analyze and draw insights for social media data companies and organizations. So one aspect of my job is, excuse me, spotting misinformation and disinformation that might be harmful to a company's reputation. So, developing these media literacy skills and habits are super important, especially as we've seen in this election cycle with constant attacks against the VP Kamala Harris. So I recently joined a MoveOn canvassing party and talked to all sorts of voters in Philadelphia. And I realized that the media and news we consume can heavily influence voters. So, for example, I encountered a lot of hesitant and non-voters or potential third-party voters. I encountered this one man who was a small business owner, and he said he wasn't probably going to vote in the election, but he was more leaning towards Trump over Biden because he thought he would be more help the economy better. And he sort of relayed how the economy was super important as a small business owner in construction. And I was, sort of telling him about all these things, that could impact his small business as a construction owner, like with climate change or potential tariffs, or even, tax cuts to bigger corporations that, really impact lower to middle income groups. So I think, I didn't end up persuading him altogether, but he definitely said he was going to do a lot more research before the election came up. So that did give me hope that, people are starting to do some digging. But I think talking to people during this election is so important, especially in this hot era of political polarization. So we often demonize those we view as being on the other side of the political spectrum, but when we talk to others in an approach of curiosity and willingness to learn, we find that nothing is really siloed. We live in the context of our upbringings, our school systems, our towns, the level of money we make. But at the end of the day, though, like every human being wants the same thing, which is like the ability to succeed and thrive, the ability to pursue their own happiness. And I think we're a lot more similar than we think. So, talking to people is the biggest way to understand each other on a deeper level. So I invite you to join me in going out there and talking to voters. So that can be whether, picking up the phone and making some calls, writing some postcards, or even going out and talking to your neighbor. Not just because we need all hands on deck in this moment, because we do, but I think, especially with how isolating and sort of grave everything feels right now, I think we could all use a lot more lay and a little bit more understanding and connection right now. So sign up for a volunteer shift with MoveOn at moveon.org/volunteer now, and let's win this thing.
I often paraphrase Coretta Scott King, and she famously said, "The fight for civil rights must be fought and won with each generation." And I think what she meant is, one, it is the very nature of our fights for equality and for justice that whatever gains we make, they will not be permanent. So we must be vigilant. And I think the second part then of her admonition meant, understanding it's the nature of it, do not despair. Do not be overwhelmed. Do not throw up our hands when it is time to roll up our sleeves. A true democracy should be about everybody being heard. Access to the ballot is one of the biggest challenges that we face. And until we pass a new Voting Rights Act, we've got to take to the streets. We're going to have to be ever more vigilant in registering people to vote and making it easy for them to actually vote. MoveOn has been doing such extraordinary work, being so active in organizing folks and lifting people up and giving voice to so many issues that must be heard. Early in my tenure as a senator, the MoveOn folks who were there when we were fighting on DACA and fighting for Dreamers, the level of activism was extraordinary. Fighting against this president's attempt to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. At the Kavanaugh hearings, MoveOn members were everywhere. I mean, just showing up and requiring the supposed leaders to be accountable. That is what MoveOn is, right? It's about a movement. MoveOn members are reminding their neighbors and their friends about the power of their voice and the power of the individual when connected to the collective to really move an agenda. And look, who don't love a good fight? I love a good fight. Right? If it's worth fighting for, it's a fight worth having.
I love a good fight. And if it's worth fighting for, let's do it. Thank you all so much. Listen, you might be like, okay, so how can I get involved right now? Well, if you've been paying attention, you know you can go to moveon.org/volunteer now to sign up to join us. We are phone banking this week. Somebody say this week. I'm a church boy. Call and response, even though I can't hear you. This week, you can phone bank Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Next week, we will be postcard writing. Listen, there is an energy here. There is a shifting here. We are in a pivotal time and moment. And so if you're sitting at home thinking, oh, what do I have to do? What can I do? How can I be useful? How can I be effective? Don't worry, we've thought about it for you. If you go to moveon.org/volunteer now, you too can do the work to win this election. I want to take this opportunity to thank my colleague, Darrell Douglas, our fierce field organizing manager, for all the work that he does day in and day out and working with our volunteers and being the rock star that he is. I want to thank Mitch, MoveOn member and volunteer, who stepped out and really started having these good conversations with folks in his community. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not thank the Speaker Emerita, Speaker Pelosi, for joining us. She's a very busy person, and she is clearly invested in this election. And for her to come and sign her petition on live, I am goosebumps all over my body right now. And so we are so thankful for her taking out the time and being with us. And lastly, I'm thankful for each of you that have joined us this evening. This was a quick call because there's work to be done. We don't have to wonder or ponder about what's next. We don't have to even talk about it that much. We just need to get to work. So thank you for your time on this fine Sunday afternoon to tune in with us and figure out how you can be involved, how you can do the work to win this November. So I say to you, victory is within our reach, but we've got to do the work. So let's do it. Thank you all, and see you on the field. Everybody, please have a happy Sunday. Let's win this thing.